So I'm 65 years old and I can still produce some work, and I'm so thankful for that. And I think that I have to thank my parents because genetics has to be the huge player. But I want to tell you about what I wish I would have known about controlling back pain and dealing with back pain as a construction worker when I was a young man, because I've had my share. First, I want to confess what may be the stupidest thing I've ever thought. There was a day in Las Vegas, and I was probably 33 years old, something like that. It was a commercial job, and I was working hard. I like to work hard. I still like to work hard, but I would grab something and I was lifting something way heavier than I should have been lifting. And the superintendent, who was an old man, probably 56, 57, came over and he said, I was watching you do that. He said, and you probably, my back hurts all the time because I used to lift stuff like that. You might just think about being a little easier on your back. And I remember thinking the most foolish thought, or one of the most foolish thoughts I've ever had. Because in my mind, I distinctly said to myself, old man, the only reason your back hurts right now is because you were never anywhere near as strong as I am. How dumb was that? It embarrasses me to tell you that. But some of you young guys are strong, and some of you lift a lot and like to lift a lot and like to work super hard. And I want to tell you what's in your future if you don't take a little better care of your back. It was less than a year after that smart aleck thought to that well-meaning superintendent that I grabbed a concrete hose we were pumping across a slab, and I picked it up to move it. And man, my back just hurt so bad, I think I actually went to my knees. Couldn't walk, couldn't move. I was hurt, and I was scared. So over the next 8 or 10 years, I battled it, and I ate a lot of ibuprofen. And what I want to do right now is tell you the things that I've figured out, really, since I was about 46. Between then and 5 years ago, I figured out a few things that have made a world of difference for me and maybe will make some difference for you. Now, the first thing was when my friend George Smith helped me put a crane on my flatbed. It was on a different truck than I'm driving now, still a Ford, still a 1-ton, but it was a lighter, shorter, slightly more primitive crane. And from the day that that crane went on that truck, moving forward, there's never been one time that Kelly had to help me get my socks on in the morning and lace my boots because I couldn't get down there. And prior to that crane, it was a common occurrence. So that crane helped so much because I didn't have to lift stupid amounts of weight on and off of my truck, and I could lower beams when I was demolishing decks and raise beams when I was building little buildings. It made a big difference in how much I was abusing my back. But my back still hurt. Now, I was visiting one day with my next door neighbor, and he was a physical therapist. And I said, man, I've got back pain. You do? And he asked me about it and talked to me about it. And then he said this crazy thing. He said, how do you brush your teeth? And I said, well, I use an electric toothbrush. By the way, young guys, get an electric toothbrush and stop scrubbing your gums back just because faster is better, right? It's not. So I said, well, I've got a Philips Sonicare electric toothbrush. He said, great. Then what you do is, when you're brushing your teeth for those 2 minutes in the morning, you bend at the waist, hang with your head down, and stretch out your hamstrings while you brush your teeth. Let me show you what I've been doing ever since. That is way better than I could do before I started doing this. Before I started doing that simple stretching exercises, my boot tops were about as far down as I could get. My hamstrings, the bowstring up the back of my body was just stretched too tight. So that helped a lot. The next thing that I added, probably within 4 months of that, and I don't remember where the recommendation came from or why I needed the recommendation, was sit-ups in the morning. So I do about 40 or 50, 40, let's not exaggerate this. I do 40 sit-ups in the morning. I don't put my hands behind my head, I cross them across my chest, and I go all the way up 40 times. And if I do those two things, stretch when I'm brushing my teeth and sit-ups in the morning, my back is way, way better. And for the probably 4 years that I was doing that, my intake of ibuprofen and metaxalone dropped way down. Now let me talk about metaxalone for a minute. This is the active ingredient in Scalaxin, which is a proprietary muscle relaxant prescription. This metaxalone, when I am having a siege of muscle spasms in my back, which happens occasionally, I take a half one of these in the morning for a couple of days, and it really, really helps. So there's that. Another thing that dawned on me and became increasingly important as I went from my 30s into my 40s was handling material smarter, using more opportunities for leverage. I mean, crane, obviously, pry bars, Burke bars, obviously, ropes and pulleys and hoists and winches, and how do you pick up plywood appropriately, and how do you move enough lumber to be worth the trip without hurting yourself. The whole concept of leverage and handling material becomes important not only to the productivity of the job and your productivity as a worker, but the sustainability of your effort. So if you would be interested in a video about practical applications of leverage and handling material, put it in the comments, because one of the ways that I gauge what it is that I'm going to bring to YouTube is by reading and sort of absorbing the comments and what is of interest to you. But here is what was the real blessing and gift. When my mom began hospice care about 6 years ago now, I started essentially living at my mom and dad's place and helping to take care of her. It was the year after we started the spec house that we didn't make any headway on the spec house because I was taking care of my mom. And so I was sleeping in a recliner at my folks' place. And by the third night of sleeping in that recliner, the last of my back pain was gone. Sleeping in a recumbent position instead of flat on my back took away my back pain. And so now I have combined these things. Stretching in the morning while I brush my teeth, stretching and strengthening my core, doing some sit-ups, sleeping in a recumbent position. Kelly and I now have the bed, king-size bed, where the two sides adjust like old people have. But between that and good genetics and a crane on my truck, which by the way is the best chiropractor on the planet, I can tell you, and I thank God, that I am living almost pain-free, unless I have to do a lot of shoveling for a few weeks, or I find an anvil that I just have to pick up and put in the trunk of the car, or something like that. There is that residual pain. But I'm thankful for the genetics. I'm thankful for the information that has come to me through friends. I'm thankful for the circumstances in my life that have enabled me to work into my 60s, and hopefully into my 70s, and God willing, into my 80s. But young men, you got to think more seriously when an old man tells you that sooner or later your back's going to hurt. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.